Welcome in to the Rock Talk Studio, the place to find your next great rock and roll book or documentary. This is the podcast that reviews, previews, and most importantly, recommends to you the good stuff. Like today's book, that is not about a musician, not about a band, not about a concert, but it does feature Jimi Hendrix, Frank Zappa, John Lennon, Fleetwood Mac, Blondie, and the Eagles, to name a few. I'm your host, Big Rick. Join me for an exclusive look into what's hitting the shelves and the screens, and get ready to rock your reading and viewing list. And today the spotlight falls on Buzz Me In, inside the Record Plant Studios. What made the Record Plant the go-to studio during the most prolific era in music making? In the 1970s, no studio had a deeper impact or a hotter streak. You had Born to Run, Rumors, Hotel California, Songs in the Key of Life, 1999, Damn the Torpedoes. All of these tracked inside its walls, and that is just a few examples of the hundreds of albums that were recorded there. But this isn't just a story about big albums. It's about bold vision. It's about two guys who built a studio that literally broke every rule and attracted everyone who mattered. Drugs, deadlines, and all-night sessions, egos the size of hotel suites. This is the 1970s music scene in full throttle. So what exactly made the Record Plant, compared to other studios that were popping up at the time, the ultimate destination for artists during what could easily be called rock and roll's most explosive era of recording? Buzz Me In, Inside the Record Plant Studio is the book and that story, and it's put together by music journalists Martin Porter and David Goggin, who take you on an uninhibited, high-octane journey through the grit, the genius, and the chaos. And when I say chaos, I mean a ton of crazy chaos. Remember, this is the 70s, and all that went into the building and the running and the producing and making rock and roll history is in these 352 pages. The book starts by dropping you in right at the beginning of the heyday of the recording studio, where two guys, who are the focus of this book, decide to take things to the next level. You've got audio engineer Gary Kellgren and businessman Chris Stone, who, inspired by their connection to Jimi Hendrix, went and decided pretty much to roll the dice and build a recording studio in New York City. It doesn't sound that crazy now, but back then they were one of the first. And Hendrix definitely set the tone early on, and his creative force is felt throughout the book. But Gary Kellgren especially, and some came from Hendrix, and some even came from Zappa, who was around at the time, he got that a studio it wasn't just rooms. They were instruments in themselves. And there's a vibe here in this book, a real vibe that makes his story more than just a behind-the-scenes look at legendary studios. The tone of the writing perfectly channels the era. I kind of reminded me of like Boogie Nights. It's loose, alive, full of discovery. It's very 70s in its feel. They did a really good job of capturing the 70s. And that writing style really works, especially when a lot of what is covered here is a legendary recording sessions from a who's who of rock's greatest artists. Don't let the style fool you. This book is thorough. By about page 40, you realize it's just not about music. It's also about how sound was sculpted, how the rooms were wired and set up, who built the gear, and what it took to capture all this lightning on tape. From acoustic design to microphone placement, it covers a lot of ground of what made the Record Plant so revolutionary without ever feeling like a tech manual. The story here is based on the memoir and the archives of Chris Stone, the business money man guy of the two, and his friendship with Kellgren that goes through many changes throughout the years, because they were basically making this stuff up as they were going along. There was no rules. They were making the rules. And Kellgren specifically became a very famous producer because he was all about understanding the artists and creating this certain feel and vibe in the studio. Kellgren was the one who came up with the idea to make studios a place where artists could just hang out and party and relax, even spend days, weeks at a time in there and have every one of their needs catered to. In the 1970s, the Record Plant wasn't just a recording studio. It was the epicenter of rock and roll's golden age, so much so that Kellgren and Stone decided to open up another Record Plant studio in Los Angeles. And if the New York stories were getting out of hand, the LA stories cranked it up to max volume. There's a cool visual feature that goes throughout the book. It's scattered throughout the book. They put up thumbnails of the albums that were recorded at that time in the story at the record plant. And it really gives you a better understanding about the overwhelming number of artists who did their finest work here. It's tremendous. By the time they opened up in LA, studios were popping up like mushrooms. Everybody wanted in on the sound, but no one could replace the vibe. And when the record plant opened in LA, it was the first of its kind, and it kind of sparked a gold rush in recording studios from one studio that was built in 1969 to 50 within a decade. And you got to ask yourself, how did one place capture so much lightning in a bottle over and over again? Most music books tell you who made the hits. Buzz Me In tells you how and where the magic actually happened. This book is full of legendary sessions and what it took to not only create those songs, but how the deals got made, how the egos were catered to, and how the way over-the-top partying was handled. And understanding these collaborations of artist and producer and engineer, all the sound guys that were involved, really gave me a deeper appreciation of all the talent that went into this. And the authors did a really good job at showing how vital the right producers were in bringing these classic recordings to life. If you're into music history, recording culture, or you just want to know what it felt like to create during rock's most fertile period, this book delivers. It captures the pulse of the industry, the evolution of sound, and the wild cast of characters that were involved. Buzz Me In is a sonic time capsule of the most creative era in music history and a place, the record plant, that captured it all. Buzz Me In, Inside the Record Plant Studio by Martin Porter and David Goggin, runs 352 pages, and it's a good one. I highly recommend this book to you. And as a bonus, the authors sent me over a Spotify playlist that they put together that accompanies the read. I'm going to leave the link to that into the show notes. It's cool, and thanks to the guys for sending that over so I could check it out and share it with everyone listening. Not only do I get to share that Spotify playlist, but I also get to give one lucky listener a free copy of this book. One free book coming up next. Today's podcast is sponsored by Thames and Hudson Publishing. Thank you so much for sponsoring us today, and thank you so much for giving me this book to give away to one of my lucky listeners. One of you is going to win this book coming up next. I'm going to announce it right here. But if you're a new listener and this is your first time in, and you're saying, wait a minute, how did these people get to win all these cool free books? I'll let you know. It's easy. It's free. All you've got to do is sign up for my monthly newsletter. It's called the Rock Talk Studio Blast. It's kind of an extension of what I'm doing here. It's going to give you a lot more information about the world of rock and roll books and documentaries. So if you want to keep up with the top 5 books so far of the year, it's in there. It's a running list of the top 5 books and docs. There's new release announcements in there. There's dates of all the scheduled rock and roll books and docs coming out. Again, it's free, comes out one time, end of the month, and it qualifies you to win all the books that I give away. I've been doing about one a month now. And my last book was Queen, A Night at the Opera 50 Years that I gave away, a really cool coffee table style book. And Joey won that book. And shout out to Joey, who wrote on her Substack newsletter. Her newsletter is JOI. You can check it out there. She wrote, Rick of Rock Talk Studio offers great reviews on his podcast with a don't bore us, get to the chorus approach. Love it. Thank you, Joey. And again, thank you, Thames and Hudson, for this book. Let's pick the winner now. The winner of this great new book, Buzz Me In, Inside the Record Plant Studio, goes to JP. JP, if you're listening, congratulations. I'll shoot you an email. We'll get your address and we'll get that book out to you. Congrats, JP. All right, let's take a look at next week's show. How is your appetite for destruction? Are you ready for 40 years of destruction and some of the most iconic rock and roll ever created? I've got just the book for you next week. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Love talking rock and roll with you. And thanks again to Thames and Hudson for sponsoring the show and for giving away the great book, Buzz Me In. Check that out. All right, time to tear it down, pack it up, and head on down the road. We'll see you next time in the Rock Talk Studio.